Hello, hello everybody. Of course I am the journalist. The minister and Chiara, of course, she doesn't need any other presentation. Let me tell you how thrilled I am just for the energies coming from this audience. I'm looking at every face, every smile, and you are giving me a lot of energy. So thank you, thank you, thank you, Chiara, for inviting me, and thank you, Minister, for being with us. Okay, I would like to start with our managing director, because, Chiara, of course, we want to know why this year Women's Forum is so concentrated on this issue. Why is the intersection between gender and climate so important to fight against the climate deregulation? Start.
Thank you so much. Maria, thank you, and I would really want to thank Brune. Brune, it's a model for not only the young generation, but for the old generation. She's the doer. She's a doer, and here in the Women's Forum, we want those who are change makers, who really do. They don't talk, they do, and then they announce what they do. Not before, but after. And I'm very, very proud that you're with us, and thank you so much for what you do. Why climate change? Because, you know, at the Women's Forum, we're not just working on gender issue. We are working on the issue, the crucial issue, that touch each of one each day. And which is the main issue now? Climate change. We're all affected. We all see what happens. And worse, you know all that women are 80% of the climate refugees. 80%, 80. And women die 14 times more than men. That means that until now we are victims. How many women at the table of negotiation? 3, 4? One was with us in Rome when we launched a manifesto to support the Paris Agreement 2 years ago with Laurence Tobiana and many others. Who is really doing something for climate at the level of power? 20% only ministers worldwide in ecological transition and sustainability. I mean, all this linked with only 20%. Where the women? How can we have a positive impact on climate? How can we act in a daily basis if we're not associated? And we said, stop it. We decided that we wanted to link climate and women, but not as victims, as those who can really have a positive impact. What we did, we gathered the daring circle. You heard about a lot our daring circle, because it's really our daring way to find solution, innovative solution, and something that has not been done on the basis of what has been done and what we reproduce and scale. The group of climate change is led by BNP and L'Oreal and many others with KPMG and EcoAct as partners, and I really would like to thank them, because if we could have some relevant works, it was thanks to their expertise of what they already do and how we could, do it in the right way. And by the way, the first who has been involved was the business sector, because when the CEO of BNP Paribas signs the charter, when the CEO of L'Oreal signs the charter, that means that in the company, there is a drive that they will follow and that the people will feel committed. Then I just wanted to say that for us, the very important thing, it's that in each level, at the individual level, at the business level, and at the political level, we have to be sure that we commit to act quickly and to take very strong commitment, again, on a daily basis. And the last thing I would say, that we as mothers, we have also the responsibility to transmit to our daughters and boys what is going on, because they are very sensitive, but sometimes they don't know exactly in some part of the world what should be done. And I'm very proud to announce, Brune, that this is the first Women's Forum completely carbon-free. Otherwise, people would not come. And we didn't have any car. Did you see? If somebody complains, you go to Brune. We only buses and metro. We didn't have any plastic, I hope. We did everything to be sure we don't. Mm-hmm. We don't have any waste. We really try to make it as climate change friendly as possible to give the example.
Thank you, Chiara. And I'm sure that focusing on climate change give you many reasons why when you have to focus on this with your partners, with the Women's Forum partner, because they understand how important is talking about this.
Magia, to be very frank with you, when we link climate and women, say, wow, why? I don't see why. What is the link? It has been very difficult to explain. The worst has been in Kyoto. When we went in Kyoto in an old temple, 500 years old temple, we had the governor of Tokyo who take very strong commitments to make the greenest ever games next year in the 30 million city of Tokyo. There was the mayor of Kyoto, was a lot of some of you are here in the room, and it was very great. And then there was a man who came to see him and say, oh, it's great what you do. You do such a good philanthropy. You do philanthropy for women, and you good philanthropy for climate. Say, my goodness, we have a lot of work to do.
Of course, a lot to do. Well, Minister, I think that, as Chiara was saying, women are the most interested in saving the planet, just to say. So I'm curious to know what is your view on the role of women as actor of change when it comes to talk about climate change and climate action?
Well, I would say this role is absolutely crucial. But what is also very crucial is to have such events. So I wanted to really thank you again, dear Chiara. You really, if you want more leadership and more gender equality, then you need to have leaders. And we're really happy and very, we feel very privileged to have someone like you, Chiara. Honestly, thank you. You've been really inspiring. And I remember when we were talking about the G20, how hard you were pushing this issue of women and climate change. And of course, some people say, well, why? Climate change is actually something that concerns everybody. Yes, but at the same time, women are the most affected by climate change. I lived in India, and I know that the more climate change was becoming a reality in a country such as India, the more women were having a difficult life. I remember, for example, I was working in the field of water, and clearly, when you had a drought or a lack of water, because it had not rained in like months or even years, then women would have to walk for like sometimes 10 or 15 kilometers more than what they used to do just to fetch water. It was absolutely, absolutely terrible to see that. So yes, I think there needs to be clearly a focus on gender equality when we design policymaking. And at the same time, what we need to do when we design policymaking is making sure that there are women sitting at the table, actually making the right decisions and putting together these policies, because otherwise they become just invisible and they are forgotten by policymakers. So that I think it's one of our key challenges here.
And just it's obvious to know that the most famous, iconic image of a fighter for save the planet is at the moment a woman, a young woman, a Swedish young woman, Greta Thunberg. So it's not, I don't think it's just for a chance that a 16 years old girl decided to be involved and not a 16 years boy. Maybe it could be a boy, but it's a girl, it's a girl. I would like to ask you, Minister, what have you done or are you doing to support women in this context at the national or international level?
Well, first of all, what we do, and at least that's what I try and do, is making sure that when we design policies, we have women around the table. But sometimes it's extremely difficult. For example, I'm currently trying to do as much as I can in the field of waste. And what I can see is that when I go and I talk about that to the wider public, obviously women are particularly interested in that topic, especially on plastics, for example, because we may regret it, but it's a reality. It's clearly women who still buy a lot of things for, the household. So they're obviously at the forefront. So they're very, very sensitive to the issue of waste and fighting plastic pollution and all that. But at the same time, that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, when you try and design policies, then in front of me, I very often have only men. Because they say, well, you know, waste is a job for men. So what I try and do is clearly bring women around the table. And it's difficult. But what I try and show them is that, and it's not even me, because it's not even intuition. I mean, science proved, and I can talk about a researcher, a scientist, Émile Servan-Schreiber, who actually showed in his book Super Collective that when there are more women around the table involved in the policy making, then policies are better. So I try and bring them on board. But this is also that something we're trying to take to the international level. And for example, we've launched as part of the G7, we have launched an initiative called GREAT, where it's actually an initiative that aims to bring on board more women, to train them to be better equipped to fight climate change. So this is an initiative we launched with Canada, and that Marlène Schiappa has taken forward, and that in my ministry as well, I try and implement. It's part of this ecofeminism diplomacy that we're trying to put forward.
Ecofeminism is not bad. My last question is for both of you, and starting with you, Chiara, because you are both calling for greater collaboration across nations, across sectors, societies, countries. But what does this collaboration around climate look like?
First, I think that's very important that we highlight the success stories. For instance, we could experience how much new technologies change the life of women. You are talking about India, but look, for instance, there's some experimentation that really works well in Kenya and Tanzania and Senegal and Ivory Coast and so on and so forth. You see, when you put, for instance, solar panels on a farm, and you get the water directly from the soil, and you don't need to go for 5 hours to search water. And by the way, it's not only the fact that you spend 4 hours to go, but it's also the risk, the insecurity when you go there, of course. And so on and so forth. We have in Air 20, I don't know if Michel Saban is here, but for instance, they do an incredible work in Ivory Coast, where they teach women not to deforest, but to use the forest to be as a business. That means that they use it, and we, in all these things, we saw that when a woman owns the land, when women are given the responsibility, the income of the farm, of the work, it's 30% more. I mean, we're not talking only for improving the life of women, of course, but for all the community. And then I think that the link between technology and how it can improve. And the other things that I really think that's very, very important, and we see it around the table, it's how to involve the business, because they can do so much on the ground, scale up the project, finance them, and they will be financed in a sustainable way. I mean, it has to be business. It has not to be philanthropy. It has to be something that's useful for everybody. And I really see so many committed people. For instance, we went in the MEDEF, and there was a charter signed by the president of MEDEF and many of the people there, including Schneider Electric, Jean-Pascal Tricoire, opened with me in Singapore, and we gave the example in Singapore where they don't have the same sensibility until now, but it comes, and it comes through women. Not because we're better, but because on a daily basis, we use carbon. We are the criminals who use the bad things, because sometimes we don't know, or something we don't have the choice. Then we have to give the choice and the right tools to women to be really capable to be an impact.
And it's important that older generation understand that future of new generation depends on them as well. What about your feeling about the collaboration, the cooperation across nation, across society? What's your experience?
When it comes to bringing women on board, I think things are moving forward. I would say, perhaps I have just a slight worry, or it's one of the dilemma that I'm feeling in my field. So. In the environment, and more specifically on fighting, waste, overproduction, and changing the way we consume and we produce. For example, very often when we talk about fighting plastic pollution or using less chemical products, sometimes you hear a lot of people saying, well, you know, women have to do, they need to start doing their washing products themselves, or you know, and this is my only worry, is that sometimes it can be nice, you can do it with your children, and I've actually met a woman who said, you know, I don't like my job, I'm just doing that because I'm not well trained, so I have a job I don't like, so I would much rather use my time to make that washing machine products at home with my kids, because I spend more time with them, and then I have to spend less money buying actually commercial washing products. So it's fine in that case. But sometimes if it becomes another burden, and then if climate change becomes, or fighting climate change becomes another way of actually enslaving women in a way, then we need to be extremely careful. And then the question is, again, how do we share chores at home? How do we divide up the work at home? And so we still come back to the same issues. And I think we need to have that thinking, at least in the Western world.
We have time out. Let me say just one thing. Politicians have a great responsibility in Italy. I'm Italian. I'm a journalist working on the political side of and domestic affairs, but politicians in Italy, our government, are fighting to make people understand how important it is even put a little bit of taxes on plastic. Not everyone are happy in Italy about this, but politician has this responsibility, make people understand. Sometimes it's hard, but it's useful for the future. And time is out now. I would like Chiara could end our short, quick conversation. Please, Chiara.
Too short, because there's so much to say. I just would like that our Minister, Brune, could sign the charter that we did with really a lot of work, a lot of commitment at the tree level, individual level. All of us has to sign it, because all of us has to do something personally for the, even if something becomes a burden. But I really agree with what you say. I completely agree, completely. That's why women should be making the policy that goes, because you know the consequences. This charter really is very dear to me. And as you know, we signed it all around the world because it's a commitment at tree level. It's a cooperative commitment. I take some more minutes because it's important. Individual, business, and government, local government, and of course, national government all around the world. I think it could make a difference. Many already signed, and we would be very proud if you accept it. I can tell you that she, not only she wrote it, but she already decided each comma, how she can implement it. Then you can know it's not a signature like that. And then I will invite all of you to have a look of this booklet that resumes what we can do and what has been done in climate change with women leadership.
Bravo.
So really thank you to everyone for being here. I think, Chiara and Minister, that we could go ahead for the next hour having things to say about this, but it was short and I hope effective. Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Woman-like.
Woman-like, yes.
Exactly.